Here we are looking at the Die Hard Game Fan, Volume 1, Issue 10. So this is for the, let's see. Oh, it doesn't have the month down here anymore. But looks like for $4.95 or $5.95. Well, $4.95 in the US and $5.95 in Canada. So in this issue, it looks like it's featuring the Aero the Acrobat. So for the Sega Genesis and the Super Nintendo. But it looks like it's also saying Sega's best fall for Sylphy, Gunstar Heroes, and Ranger X. New for the Super Nintendo are ActRaiser 2, Mario All-Stars, Tournament Fighters, Super Empire Strikes Back, and we also have a Gamefan Sports Premier Edition inside. And looks like we're going to look at the Samurai Showdown and also the Gamefan's second edition of RPG Special. And also an exclusive world premiere of Super Street Fighter 2, along with AX101, Sonic CD, Dracula X, Virtual Racing, and Phantasy Star 4. So let's get into this. Mortal Kombat, Mortal Monday, September 13th. So I remember this was kind of a big deal because they were starting to advertise like the release dates and all, and kind of make it like promoting around that, right? There was for Sonic 2, there was Sonic Tuesday. Here we have Mortal Monday, right? And so it was just using as a marketing ploy to just kind of lure people in and all. And so it was kind of cool, right? Because it was like almost like a holiday, right, for gamers. And it definitely helped to build up the anticipation. I mean, I know I was always hyped for that kind of stuff and all. I was like, oh, I know on this day so and so game's going to come out, and we still see it to an extent nowadays and all. But it was games like these that was starting off that process, this whole concept here. Because again, I remember Sonic 2 doing that, and then Mortal Kombat here, and also it was kind of cool to see, right? Just gaming starting to get a little bit more mainstream. All right, but table of contents. Davis Cup Tennis. Now here's a better advertisement for RoboLSD. Okay, so the editorial zone. Welcome to issue number 10 of Gamefan. As we wrapped up this issue, the talk around the production room was the upcoming 3DO, the Atari Jaguar, and Sega's new 32-bit Saturn project. It seems strange. The 8-bit market flourished for 5 years before 16-bit came in and slowly took the reins. But now, just after 3 years of Genesis and 2 years of Super Nintendo, here we go again. The question is 32-bit going to be an alternative while the 16-bit market continues to flourish, or will Nintendo join the fray, along with Hudson, with their own 32-bit machine, thus ending the 16-bit era? On one hand, it doesn't seem right. The Super Nintendo is still very young and is just now finding its legs. There has only been one Zelda, one Mario, no Kid Icarus, no Metroid, and no Mega Man, normally sequel-friendly banner games for Nintendo. At the same time, Sega has just released its CD, which will be less than 2 years old when their 32-bit is introduced, and is far from reaching its potential. Also, programmers are still finding ways to make the Genesis perform better. On the other hand, if the technology is available for improvement, why not use it? The thing is, at least in our industry, that when one company does something new, everyone then follows in fear of being left behind. Maybe the 8-bit era was misleading, and the reason it reigned for so long was because no one else wanted in. Now that the Nintendo has paved the way to an $8 billion per year industry, it seems everyone is jumping in, including AT&T, MCA, Universal, Matsushita, Panasonic, Time Warner, and many more. In other electronic markets, products are updated and improved almost yearly. Look at a 2-year-old VCR. Yuck. Could we be heading the same direction? Video game consumers have a lot of choices to make over the next year. Do you buy and stick with one system, constantly sell off the old and bring in the new, or just buy them all? Then there's the matter of software. Currently, it takes at least 6 months up to 2 years to make a good game. So who is going to make all these games for all these formats? Check this list. Super Nintendo, Genesis, 3DO, Jaguar, Sega CD, Hudson 32, Sega 32, Sony PlayStation, Neo Geo, Game Gear, and Game Boy. That's 11 formats. With 70-80 titles per year per system, that's 800 to 900 games, Will companies grow in numbers to meet the new demand, or will companies simply rush out product that is low quality in search of the quick buck? And many still do. There are all questions we have to ask ourselves over the next year. One thing is for sure, our industry is growing at an incredible pace. We've been found. All of a sudden, everyone is realizing what all of us gamers have been excited about for the last few years, and now they want to cash in. Well, my message to them is this: if you can find a way to bring me 50 quality games a year on a system that you will continue to support, even in the wake of new consoles, then I'll buy it. But if you introduce some superior hardware and then allow countless bad games to be rushed out, then I'm gonna get you. Hey man, I got a magazine and one dedicated bunch of gamers. We can do it. So be warned. If the industry crashes again, we're out of a job and will be bored to tears. Bottom line, the game industry is quickly going from ages 8 to 15 to 8 to 50 and beyond. I know I'll be hammering away till I drop, and it's up to us to make sure that it's all handled properly. I can tell you one thing: if you use Gamefan as a buyer's guide, you can't go wrong. Our official 3DO section starts next month. Here we go. Yeah, so I mean, they were already kind of talking about things of just over flooding the market, right, with just too many games, which is sort of what ended up leading to the video game crash from before. It was partly because of bad games, but partly also there was just too many games and things weren't just being regulated very well as far as the distribution of games. There was just an oversaturation of games and all that, even good games too. And it just caused this whole retail glut and caused everything to crash. So there was a bit of a concern, it looks like, around this time, at least from this particular editor. Funny how that's sort of what we're seeing nowadays too, where there is just a lot of games out there. And sometimes I wonder with like all the games that are out there, I was like, who's buying all these games? Or, who's buying like these really niche games, right? And all. But there's, I guess, enough demand for them out there. And it's kind of impressive, but makes you wonder though, like kind of the same scenario where we're at now, if we're maybe heading to some sort of crash of some sort in the video game industry nowadays, as looks like was being concerned about back then too. But just thought that was interesting. So here we go with the most wanted top 10. I think I'll just kind of leave this here for a little bit instead of reading them off. Bullseye. What is this? Oh, for Cool Spot. So again, we reviewed this game a few issues back. Still highly recommended. On the Genesis or the Super Nintendo, I would say too. Super Monaco GP. Oh, you can use the Super Hang-On bike on this? Interesting. I'd be curious to see that. It looks like the Game Gear version of Mortal Kombat also had blood too, and of course the Genesis, the ABACABB. And you get Scorpions, get over here! And the screen turns red. I remember that. I always thought that was kind of cool. Oh, action replay codes. Dash in Desperados. Jungle Strike. All right, now here we go for the viewpoint. Oh wow, I think this was a really good issue here for the Sega Genesis. So Skids pick. So there's no way I can choose just one. Sylphid, Gunstar, and Landstalker are all the best in their class so far this year. Three-way tie. Sergeant Gamer says Sylphid hands down. This game is truly the first complete next level experience on Sega CD or on CD. Kaylee, Gunstar Heroes just edged out Samurai Shodown and Sylphid for Game of the Month. Way to go, Treasure. So just it's been in the previous issues and all before, but basically Treasure was formed from some former Konami developer, so I think that's what he was getting at. And the Inquirer says Samurai Shodown is my pick this month. This title proves once again and all that SNK belongs in the world of the arcade elite. So Gunstar Heroes. I mean, this game is fantastic, and yeah, not enough good stuff I can say about it. So they give it pretty solid scores across the board. But let's see, so Skid give it a 99%, and Gunstar sets new standards in the small character action game category for cartridge. I've never and probably will never again be this impressed with a cartridge-based game. Treasure is a treasure indeed and deserves a big round of applause for this phenomenal effort. Sergeant Gamer gave it a 99 and says Treasure has quite possibly achieved the perfection in action gaming. Gunstar Heroes pulls out all the stops to deliver graphics, special effects, and gameplay that pushes your 16-bit wonder to the limit. I'm not quite sure if Sega knows what they've got, but gamers do, and this is as good as gaming gets. Kaylee gave it a 98% and said there's now a new standard for two-player action games. The programmers at Treasure shrunk themselves down, entered my brain, and saw what kind of game I wanted to see on the Genesis, and it did. This game has just about every kind of play mechanic imaginable, and to say that action is fast-paced is an understatement. Action game benchmark, absolutely. 98% from the Inquirer. So he said Gunstar Heroes is an absolute design perfection. You cannot judge this game by the back of the box or even our review. All Genesis owners should buy this game, whether you're into action, RPG, sports, whatever. GameStar or Gunstar Heroes is an instant classic that should not be missed. It looks to be the best game in Sega's fall lineup. The Gunstar Heroes was amazing. But then we also get Shinobi 3, Return of the Ninja Master. So I'll just read one of these here. So one of my all-time favorite games has been blessed with yet another high-quality product in Sega's fall lineup. Everything in this game screams more. More color, more action, more graphics, FX, more gameplay elements, and of course, more music. A must for all Genesis owners. Yeah, great game. Mortal Kombat. Let's see. So got pretty good reviews. So read the highest one here. So from Skid, so 90%. This is, for a 16-bit cartridge, a great arcade translation. The Sega version delivers as promised with a nifty code for all the blood. The graphics, music, and control with the 6-button are perfect. As a Mortal Kombat fan, I couldn't have asked for more. Bubsy got decent grades here. But Sylphie. Yeah, Sylphie was pretty awesome back then. So Skid said 100%. So I can't just imagine liking a shooter more than this. Since I got mine, I've played it over and over every day, and I'm sure I'll never tire of the awesome graphics, great music, perfect playability, and amazing intermissions. Was any developer ever take the time and money to top it? I think not. Dedication to quality like this is a precious commodity. Yeah, Sophie is something else. Gauntlet 4. Looks like it got decent reviews. But Ranger X, so it got a 90, 88, 90, 92, so not too bad. I'll go for the highest review here. So Ranger X is one incredible cartridge shooter. Like Gunstar and Aladdin, Ranger X pulls out every graphics FX that you can imagine to take shooters fans wish. Can imagine to take the side scroller to the top of any shooter fans wish list, after Sophie, of course. Although not as good as the import, the explosions just aren't the same. The US version still ranks as one of the best games of the year. Then we got the Jurassic Park. So they didn't give it too high grades. I didn't mind this too much, though, but they didn't seem to think too highly of it. Then we got this Bari Arm game. I'm not sure what that is. But we got Landstalker also. So I'll read the first review here. So 100%. I've said it once and I'll say it again. It's a perfect action RPG. There's no flaws. You want your money's worth? Buy Landstalker. Perfect design, perfect control, incredible music, and long and very challenging. Even the story's awesome. Why 100%? Because no US release action RPG on 60-bit will ever touch it. Well, what if they make a sequel? Well, they never made a sequel specifically to Landstalker. There was a kind of pseudo sequels of Dark Savior and then also Alundra, but those come later. But never a direct sequel though. And yeah, I love Landstalker. It's such a great game. And I maybe not 100%, but I do really agree with their sentiments on this game here. And again, I know Link to the Past was sort of like the fan favorite for action RPGs games during this time frame, but Landstalker to me is just such an amazing title. And granted, I mean, it does take some inspiration from games like Legend of Zelda, but still, for me personally, just a masterpiece. But then we jump over to just really quick. I mean, Sega had an amazing month this one here. So Gunstar Heroes, Shinobi 3, Mortal Kombat, Sylphie, Ranger X, and Landstalker. Just with those games right there, it's pretty amazing right there. Um, Sega was doing really good during this time. But Super Mario All Star, so they didn't give it the best of reviews. I guess we were in a time frame where I think we were just wanting, excuse me, like just to see, if technology was evolving so much that we wanted to see new or cool experiences because we were getting them pretty frequently. That to go back to like an older game, if it was redone in modern graphics, at least for the time, it just kind of seemed like a bit of a letdown. Funny how things are kind of in reverse now, but let's just read the top review here. So 91. So Mario's the man. These games are the reason I am a game fan. Am a game fan today. I believe that the Mario collection of games for 8-bit paved the way for today's advanced gaming systems. It's all here with 16-bit graphics and sound. Get ready for a trip down memory lane. Yeah, good stuff. Yoshi Safari, so didn't seem to get the best of reviews. But Mortal Kombat on the Super Nintendo. So let's read the top review here. So after playing Mortal Kombat on Genesis, I was a bit disappointed with the Super Nintendo version. It's phenomenal as far as graphics, sound, and music go. It's just that the gameplay, although good, can't match the Sega version. The final straw would have to be the new edited Fatal Moves. Great game, guys, but you have missed the point. So I've played both of them, and the Sega Genesis version definitely doesn't look as good, but it played smoother, and obviously the whole blood thing, right, and all was kind of a big deal. And so the Super Nintendo version, from what I recall, I remember one time I tried playing it, and it seemed like there was a bit of a lag with your control input and all. And I don't know, it just seemed it might have been just the way the game was programmed and all. I'm not sure, but yeah, immediately I was a little put off by that because I felt like might have not minded it too much, and all if the control if it played fine, but it had that also bad going for it, and so it just basically laid the tracks for the Sega Genesis version to really take over and dominate during this time here, and was definitely a big push for the Sega Genesis, right? And all that it had that edge over the Super Nintendo, because blood, people love gore. But I mean, that's the point of the game, right? So I don't know if it's true, but I think I read somewhere, it might have been in the Console Wars book, that there was supposedly parents that were writing into Nintendo because Nintendo was trying to do the right thing by saying, "Hey, we got Mortal Kombat, but we sanitized it so it's not, warping little kids' minds and all that." And supposedly, some parents were writing in saying, "Like, no, you guys made a mistake." I think it was, if I recall right, I think it was Howard Lincoln. He was like an attorney for Nintendo back in those days, and I want to say that he said that, and I think it was an interview. So there was a Console Wars book, and also had a documentary based off of it. So yeah, definitely if you get a chance, watch those. But I think that's where he made mention of that. But I thought that was kind of funny. But anyways, let's see. So then there's a Back to the Future game, which yikes, there's a 12%. A disaster of mystic proportions. Super Back to the Future 2 defies all logic in addition to standards of a good game design. The only reason I'm giving the game such a high of a score is because of the rendition of the movie's theme. Here's hoping that no American company is desperate enough to product to bring this title to market. Ouch. Rare when these guys give a bad grade, so that game must have really sucked. But Samurai Showdown. I love the Samurai Showdown series. They're really good, and this is the first one here. So I'll read the top review here. So there's no way I can praise this game enough in this little space. SNK, thank you for Genan Shiranui and Tam Tam. Thank you for your panoramic views. Thank you for awesome moves, and thank you for awesome carnage. Welcome to the same level as Street Fighter 2. You've done it. They really love Samurai Shodown, and we're placing it on the same limelight as Street Fighter 2. I wouldn't quite go that far, but Samurai Showdown, the whole series and all, is very excellent. And yeah, I mean, it was for me personally, probably my favorite SNK fighter. mean, I really like the Kino Fighter series also, but Samurai Shodown was great though, for sure. Let's see. Then we got this ad here for Aero the Acrobat. I just realized this is kind of a chunky boy of a magazine at 176 pages. So I might try to blaze through this a little bit quicker than maybe some of the previous ones I've done. Put the monitor here. The Adventures of Monitor. E-Storm. That's funny. That's funny. Now, so here's a interview with Sony ImageSoft. I'd be kind of interested in reading this interview here because this would have been around the time that they were trying to make a decision where they were let down by Nintendo, but maybe still trying to work with Sega. I'm not sure. But ultimately, that didn't pan out. Who were they interviewing? Mr. Olaf Olafsson. Okay, so yeah, so Olaf Olafsson. So he ended up being one of the first few people that helped get the PlayStation off the ground. I think he left the company fairly shortly afterwards, but let's see. Let's see what he says here. Okay, so we can't let you go without asking you about the PlayStation. Your position seems to be that 3DO is evolutionary, not revolutionary. Do you see room for Sony in the 32-bit hardware world? And so he responded, "All I can really tell you at this time is there is a very strong development being pursued by Sony with an eye towards marketing advanced entertainment hardware. Thank you for your insight and candid answers. We at Gamefan wish you and Sony ImageSoft the best for the remainder of 1993 and beyond." Hmm. So interesting. So the PlayStation is on the back of their mind. That system would fail, right? Gunstar Hero. So here's a full review here. So I do want to read this one here. Okay, I'll admit it. I get excited about a lot of games. I love video games. I go into every review optimistically looking for positive rather than negatives. But this one really shocked me. I know a great game when I see one, especially in the action platformer category, and I can assure you, this is one of a kind. Intense action game. Intense action. If you don't buy it, you should sell your Genesis and take up ping pong or something else. Because Gunstar Heroes is what every Genesis owner dreams of. Fast, intense, non-stop action. It grabs you by the short and curlies and sucks you in. So sit back and crank the volume and get ready for action. There's a snarling little character on the screen, and he's ready to do battle with a little help from you, of course. So grab a controller and let's go. You'll start off in level 1, running across a hostile forest. Grab the green weapon, plant your finger on and stomp the hordes of invading enemies. You can grab him and slam him, hang him from a grassy plate and shoot him. Fly and parrot through them, or just plain old roast them. Make it to the huge pyramid and start your climb. Beat the incredibly animated middle boss and start your slide down fast, sliding and fighting. The boss awaits just ahead. That's level 1. It never stops. In level 2, you'll dive into an underground chasm in a specially modified cart, which can, by double jumping, ride on either floor or ceiling of the chasm. The speed is super fast here, and hordes of enemies attack from high and low. Keep jumping, keep shooting. The first thing you'll encounter here is a train full of enemies. You'll fly both horizontally and vertically until you meet Red himself, who looks exactly like Vega from Street Fighter 2, but I think Vega was the name of M. Bison in Japan, I believe, so I think that's what he's getting at there. He'll start throwing out bodies, trying to stop you. Kill him, and it's time to take a boss who will blow you away. He can change up to 7 times, including Soldier Force, a huge robot, Tails Force, a mechanical serpent, Tiger Force, Eagle Force, Blaster Force, an animated pistol that reloads itself, Urchin Force, and Crab Force. That's one boss. On hard, you'll fight all 7 Moors. On easy, you'll fight 3. Play on easy the first time through. There are 7 levels in Gunstar, and with sub levels within, and each is more impressive than the last. Level 4's flying battleship is amazing with rotation never seen on cartridge format. Level 5 has our hero hurling dice to decide his fate in a deadly board game, and level 6 and 7, well, let's just say you won't believe your eyes. Gunstar Heroes is a 1 or 2 simultaneous game, however. I suggest you go at it on your own to get the full experience the game offers to avoid some troublesome slowdown 2 player mode brings. It is going to take a miracle to knock Gunstar out of the cartridge game of the year for me. It's just so new and unique, I'm sure I'll go back to it often for years, and I'm sure you will too. This game breathes new life into the Genesis and begs for a sequel. I hope we get one. E-Storm. Yeah, I mean, amazing game. It definitely was a sight to behold, right? To see what the Genesis could do. A lot of cool special effects on it. So yeah, this board game and all I thought was really unique at the time, and yeah, just a great overall shooter. This boss right here, I thought this was always really impressive. This robot kind of looking thing kind of scales it and out and all of the screen, and it's pretty impressive. Granted, the geometry of the boss and all is fairly basic and all, but still made for a pretty impressive effect. And the Terminator. Now that Arnold is on his anti-violence gig, yeah, I remember that he went through a period there where he wanted to stay away from guns and all, or something like that, if I recall right. But yeah, Terminator CD, I did enjoy this game. Not at first, but I did later. Aero the Acrobat. I haven't messed around too much with these games, but they were somewhat popular back then, and they came out both on the Genesis and the Super Nintendo. Oh, they had quite the layout for that game. And Aladdin. So this game was being developed by David Perry. So we've already talked about him before with the Global Gladiators game and then the Cool Spot game. So they were at it here with the Aladdin. I know the graphics are simpler at this time, and and all that, but it was just crazy how many games these companies were pumping out left and right. Because like we just had Cool Spot a few months back, and now this team is finishing up this game here. And this game here, so I'll read a bit about this. So, as the nurses brought the last few tanks of oxygen and the pizza guy pulled up for the last time, the delighted yet exhausted team of programmers and designers responsible for Aladdin heaved a big sigh. Virgin Games has done the seemingly impossible, completed a game, well, not just a game, the game, in just 12 weeks. That's crazy. Yes, lucky Genesis devotees, Disney, Sega, Virgin's Aladdin is on its way to a store near you this October, and what a game it is. The magic of the movie comes through big time as you guide Aladdin through 10 plus levels, including Agrabah, Sultan's Dungeon, the Cave of Wonders, a high speed rug ride, and Jafar's Quarters, just to name a few. Each character is finely drawn and animated by the incredible artists at Disney and Virgin, and the game itself is a product of David Perry and Company, the now famous team responsible for Cool Spot and Gladiator or Global Gladiators. The music in Aladdin is courtesy of Virgin's own Tommy Tallarico, who has outdone himself once again with his version of the original soundtrack that fits the game like a glove. Just think, Sega brought all these people together, special thanks to Pam, of course, for the purpose of bringing you some of the best home entertainment ever to preserve some of the 90s finest animation achievements on something other than videotape. How do you like your Genesis so far? Yeah, yeah, this game became a huge hit. Was much better than the Super Nintendo version. Well, maybe not much better, but it was better than the Super Nintendo version. I think that was kind of the unanimous thought at the time. Not that the Super Nintendo one from Capcom was bad. It's just that this one was truly something special. I always thought this was pretty cool right here. This whole layout here that they show here. And there's this haunting game. Never did play it, but it seems like you're a poltergeist of some sort and just kind of messing with people. And Shinobi: The Return of the Ninja Master. Yeah, great game. Looks like apparently, I mean, they redid it for the better, like we talked about in the previous issue. Yeah, great game. Again, I do miss Yuzo Koshiro's soundtrack on this, but just because the one on the Revenge of Shinobi was so tied to that game as far as just the game itself, and um, felt like this one kind of lacked a bit in that, but still a good soundtrack. Great game overall, though. Yeah, definitely. I mean, it's definitely a good game. Some Mortal Kombat. So September 13th, Mortal Monday. Thousands of carnage-craving gamers will scour the software stores in search of the long-awaited and much-anticipated home version of Mortal Kombat. The only question is which one to buy, since the game will be available in all formats with the exception of Sega CD, which will appear at a later date. Well, if you got a Game Gear or Game Boy, buy that one. The big question is Super Nintendo or Genesis. If you own both systems, my advice would be to go with with Sega. Number one, you got the death moves and blood spray. Just use the handy code in Hocus Pocus. Number two is programmed by Pro, makers of Alien 3 for Super Nintendo and Genesis. One of the best developers in the business. And number three, the music is better. However, if you only own a Super Nintendo, that version, although sadly rated G, still is an excellent game. So you really can't go wrong, which makes September 13th a very good day indeed. This is an excellent effort on the part of Probe and Acclaim. Bearing in mind the Genesis capabilities, and this is as good as it gets. The only thing that may annoy you a tad is that the use of the start button for blocking on the standard controller pad. A remedy for this is the new 6-button controller, which will allow you the same control as a coin up. So definitely now is the time to upgrade your pads. Other than that, I can find no reason you shouldn't dart out and snag one before the stores close on the 13th. Oh, excuse me. Now, for some insight on the game itself. Take my word for it, although Raiden and Scorpion seem the best, take a look at Sub-Zero. He is especially effective against Goro and the old Geese. Just freeze, slide, and jump back, freeze, slide, and jump back. If you can sustain this rhythm, you will almost always win. And of course, there's the added bonus of ripping your fallen opponent's head off with and holding it high for all you to see, spine dangling, blood dripping, and when you hit his death move. Another good character for the last two bosses is Sonya. Being able to dart through the air really screws with Goro. He's not the brightest. Actually, all of the characters are fairly evenly balanced, even against each other. It's Goro and Shang Tsung you have to worry about. We had a great time here with Mortal Kombat. In fact, we're still playing it often. It's a great game and nice departure from all the Street Fighter 2 clones of late. I can hardly wait for part 2. E-Store. Yeah. Mortal Kombat. What a big deal this was back then. But Bubsy. So this is the Genesis version. Seems like it was a decent platformer. I've never played it. Maybe I'll try to give it a shot sometime. Oh, excuse me. And Sylphid. So we finally got a review of this game. On July 30th, Game Marts finally let it go and their baby for 2 years. Sylphid was released in Japan. On August, me, and the other Segaphile here at Gamefan actually stood out front with binoculars waiting for the FedEx truck to come into sight, or the ice cream truck man. We were dying to see if the game lived up to the demo and slides we have been staring at for the last year. It does. Basically, it's over. This is the best shooter, although it's really more than a shooter ever, at least for home play. The game starts out with an amazing display of the CD capabilities with an incredibly smooth texture map polygon intro with great narration. This is followed by the setup screen and then the weapon select screen. It's once you begin playing Sylphid, however, that the fun really begins. The level of interaction is the best I've experienced, as the narration goes along perfectly with the intense action on screen. As huge detailed polygons soar by, squadrons of attackers come in waves, causing the player to use the entire screen. In Still Feed your ship, you can move into the screen, as well as right or left. This play mechanic helps to create very realistic environments where you must go around enemies, obstacles, and bosses if necessary. Basically, you're flying. This is not your average pattern shooter. You are constantly confronted with decisions. For example, two huge rotating polygons are closing in at different speeds on each side of the screen. A string of fighters shoot through between them, some breaking left, some right. You can dive into shooting or stay back dodging and hope you're right. It's very, very 3D. In fact, I can't really describe it. This is one of those games you have to play. All I can say is try to convey how truly incredible it really is. All I can do is to try to convey how truly incredible it really is. Your SA-77 Sylphid can equip 2 of 4 weapons at once. You begin with only one and earn the rest as you beat levels, uh, and one of 4 options. Selecting the proper weapon and options combination is a key element in the game, as some just won't cut it in certain situations. It takes a while to learn and really adds to your replayability factor. You won't beat Sylphid easily. You get 1 ship per level and 3 continues. That's it. So you really got to know each level to reach the 12th and final level. Oh, excuse me. There are also 3 additional intermissions during the game plus the ending, and each one is something to see. What Game Arts has done here is taken all the time they need to do the perfect game. Nothing was spared. In Japan, Sylphid has been anxiously awaited, extensively advertised, and appeared on the most wanted list for many months. It's a shame that Sega of America isn't hyping the game at all. It got a couple of screens at the last 2 shows, and that's about it. Actually, Sega of America just recently officially acquired the rights, so perhaps Sylphid will now get the hype it deserves. Everyone should know about this game. It's a 3D shooter fan. It's a 3D shooter fan Street Fighter 2, and it now stands. Sylphid should have an American release no later than October. When it comes out, buy it. And if you don't have a Sega CD, then this should be the reason you've been looking for. Sylphid represents the cutting edge of 16-bit technology. This is the result of what happens when the best there is get together and give it all their all, taking the hardware to the limit and creating something previously unimaginable. Game Arts is to be commended. They have just saved the Sega CD. Yeah, and so many points are made, right, and all, and it's just I've said it before and all on this game and all, but basically, it was just such a cool time to see just technology evolving so much and all. There was definitely a lot of joy to be had, right? And as you were seeing those leaps and bounds, right, in game design, gameplay, game graphics, and everything, it was truly magical. RoboCop versus Terminator, pretty cool game, pretty bloody for back in the day, and yeah, I mean it was pretty fun. I believe it was from Virgin Games, and then there's Gauntlet. So it's a version of Gauntlet. It seems like I mean, it's a good game, and the Genesis got a decent port, which apparently has a lot of voice samples and music as well too. Ranger X. So basically, with this game, you control this robot, and then you have sort of like a motorcycle kind of thing that you get on, or this whatever this is called, but you get in it, and then you can use it also to sort of drive around in the levels, and then in each stage has like a certain objective where you need to destroy certain things so you'd be able to advance, and then you get certain power ups and all. So it's all pretty. It's the level designs and everything and all are pretty cool and all. And then, like I said, it has some pretty impressive graphics on it as well too. So great game. I mean, it really is a great game. Hemdale. I remember borrowing this game from our buddy that I've talked about before that had the Sylphid, and they had this game too also. And I remember borrowing this game. I want to say I think we did beat it, and it's kind of hard to explain what it is. It's I thought it would be kind of like a Landstalker kind of game because of the 3/4 view, but it's something different though. Um, but I had some fun with it. The music I remember was pretty incredible. But I think this is from Core. Uh, but yeah, I remember I had some fun with it. Soldiers of Fortune. Never did play this game here. Awesome Possum. Just another mascot game. Those were kind of a dime a dozen back then. Jungle Book. Another game that was a game from a Disney property. Oh, excuse me. It ended up being a pretty good game. I wouldn't say as good as Aladdin, but it was a fun game though still. And then Jurassic Park, I thought this game was decent. And Spider-Man versus the Kingpin. They added some cinematics here. I mean, it didn't really do too much as far as utilizing the technology and all that. Barry Arm. I believe this is on the Sega CD, some kind of a shooter. I'm not too familiar with this game. Looks colorful though. And Kyo Flying Squadron. This game ended up becoming a pretty rare Sega CD game. Sonic CD. So we're still talking about this game. So it's official. Sonic City will hit the streets running in Japan September 23rd, followed by a November release on Sega CD here in the States. Clinton should call it a holiday. Look for this CD to use full capabilities uh, of the CD with over 80 levels, warping floors like Street Fighter 2, over 100 animations on Sonic, enemies built with multiple sprites, and awesome 3D rounds. Not only that, but the opening and internal animation sequences are incredible, and the music is unbelievable. Our source say in Japan says the game is game of the year, no doubt about it. We'll bring you much more information as possible until one lands in our office. Until then, feast your eyes. Yeah, Sonic City, favorite Sonic game of all time. A lot of it just has to do that it was really the main Sonic game that I owned at the time. But we'll get more into that as they end up reviewing it. Virtual racing was kind of a big deal. Mansion of Hidden Souls. Yeah, I remember this game. I always thought was interesting. But for previews, so here they're talking about Street Fighter 2. So Gamefans coverage of the now 24 meg Street Fighter 2 begins next month. As you can see, it is now full screen, and the graphics and color look much better than the previous 16-bit or 16-bit cartridge. Talking about Dragon Slayer here. And also Pop Mail. This is a game that I really want to get into that I just haven't messed around with yet. And they're talking about Shining Force 2, Castlevania, Lethal Enforcers. Oh, and that Sengoku game was coming out on this. Looks like the Sega CD, did it? I don't remember that. Mazin Saga, this game was pretty decent. I got this advertisement for this X-Men and Spider-Man game. And Super Nintendo. Oh. One criticism of the Super Nintendo since its introduction was that the older 8-bit favorites were not being transferred to 16-bit fast enough, and when they did arrive, the quality of some of the games was not as good as the first experience. Nintendo seems to want to change things with Super Mario All-Stars. The first game in the Super Mario collection is Super Mario Bros. Introduced back in 1985, Super Mario Bros. Helped launch Nintendo into video game sphere, and anyone who has played the game can understand why. With colorful graphics, a long quest for an action game, tons of hidden secrets and gameplay that at the time set a new standard, everybody wanted to play Mario. Now in 1993, Nintendo is re-releasing the game in a 16-bit format, or a 16-bit form with even more colorful graphics, a new backgrounds with multi-layer scrolls, and all the secrets intact. Super Mario Bros. Never looked better. Okay, so they're reviewing them separately. So the second game in the Super Mario All-Stars is Super Mario Bros. The Lost Levels. Although this game may not be familiar to gamers from North America, it was released on the Japanese 8-bit Famicom in 1986 as Super Mario Bros. 2. And our Super Mario Bros. 2, a totally different game, would eventually be released in Japan under the name Super Mario USA in 1992, even though the game debuted here in 1988. Confused? No worries. The best way to look at it is that you're getting a brand new 16-bit Mario with new worlds and secrets to explore. The layout of the game is similar to Super Mario Bros. 1, and since this is the true sequel to Super Mario Bros. 1, it all starts to fall into place, including cool DSP echo effects and caverns. Other than that, everything is different, and there's even a surprise after you beat it. Bonus. Super Mario Bros. 2. Super Mario Bros. 2, or Super Mario USA, whichever one you wish to call it, is the third selection on Nintendo's first 16-bit game. Of all the games on this card, this one looks and sounds the most like its 8-bit counterpart. Another thing you may notice is that since the game is grouped together with all the other Super Marios instead of being separated by year or more between its NES brethren, it is actually similar to the other games, and I think that may spark a new interest since the game is so different from the others. Anyway, you look at it, Super Mario Bros. 2 is a game that all of us grain gamers and you young aces will be enjoying for a long time to come. And Super Mario Bros. 3. The latest and perhaps the greatest of all games that have a short plumber in a red suit on the front of an S box is Super Mario Bros. 3, the best-selling game of all time. With sales exceeding 8 million copies and cubic yard of cash totaling 500 million bucks in sales, Super Mario Bros. 3 needs no introduction. This game is so popular that when all the dust is settled, the Mario character was better known than Mickey Mouse. Crepes. Of course, all the tricks, twists, and trips of the 8-bit game are here, but presented in 16-bit splendor. Yet another plus is that you can also play the arcade original Mario Brothers, where you can bump Koopas and other critters from underneath and go head-to-head against Luigi. Hey, one of the fighting games way before Street Fighter 2. Overall, I think all of us should find at least one Mario game, maybe more, that we like and should make it worth it right here. I'd like to tell you more about the games, but we'll save that for another time. In the meantime, the Inquiry and I are going to have it out right now in Mario Brothers. I predict that Keeley won't even break a sweat. And Yoshi Safari, so again for that Super Scope thing. They didn't seem they cared for it too much. Graphics look like they could be kind of interesting. ActRaiser 2. This game always had my interest. I just love the look of the game and all that. That was pretty impressive. Yeah, I mean, Yuzo Koshiro was the man back then. I mean, he was doing like techno-ish kind of soundtracks, like for stuff like Streets of Rage 2, and then more classical music, like here for like the ActRaiser series. So he was Pretty busy back then. On a side note, Eartheon is a pretty cool shooter that you can buy on pretty much all the modern systems now, which Yuzo Koshiro and his team at Ancient developed, and he did the music for also. But yeah, I do remember renting this game with our buddy that had the Super Nintendo. And yeah, pretty cool game. I remember it being difficult, but it was a pretty cool game. Gem Power. I remember seeing this game in the magazine, but never played it though. Sky Blazer. So we talked about this game like yesterday. But yeah, Sony ImageSoft seems to be a pretty decent game. Super Empire Strikes Back. So continuing the Super Star Wars series on the Super Nintendo. A lot of supers in their games, huh? Arcus Odyssey. Oh, that's right. So the Super Nintendo got a version of this game. I played a little bit about this game on the Sega Genesis. It's like an action RPG and seems pretty fun. I haven't gone too far into it, but I almost forgot that the Super Nintendo did get a version. Flashback on the Super Nintendo. But here's another game where, I mean, it plays decent enough on the Super Nintendo, but for the most part, the Genesis version was better. Just played smoother and all. The Journey Home. It's a game called New Year, I think it was called, that we we looked at a few issues back, and it looks like it did end up coming out here in the States, called The Journey Home. Interesting. Lamborghini American Challenge. Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles Tournament Fighter. Biometal. So this was a 2D shooter, and it was a decent shooter. Um, what kind of stood out for me though was it had music from a techno group called Two Unlimited, which I was a fan of their music at the time, so I thought it was kind of cool that you can listen to their music on this one. And yeah, I had a pretty cool soundtrack to it. Who developed this? Activision? Will they publish that? Here's like a kind of a flight simulator game. And Mortal Kombat on the Super Nintendo. Well, they took out the blood and the death scenes and are kind of baby death scenes, but Acclaim and Sculpture Software still have still given gamers what they want: a near perfect arcade translation of Mortal Kombat. Can't have red paint in a video game, but you can buy an AK-47 at Big John's 5 and Dime. Ain't America grand? Bonnie. Let's see, the graphics in Mortal Kombat are astounding, especially the animation on the digitized characters. The play mechanics and control work like a dream, and anyone who is familiar with the arcade game will instantly be able to pick up the feeling of this game. The comparisons don't end there either. The music, voice, and sound is almost identical to the arcade with a few minor exceptions. The game features unlimited continues on every difficulty level, so take a word of advice. Do not play the game on very easy. It is a total cakewalk and will not challenge anyone but the most novice gaming fan. In in fact, those of you who are experienced Mortal Kombat veterans immediately play the game on very hard because the most difficult part of the very easy difficulty is making it to the next potty break. There are no pauses featured in this game. All kidding aside, you can stall the game at the player select screen, but if you keep winning, my personal best is 9 matches in a row. Thank you very much. You are not allowed to break. Also, everyone has their favorite character, and mine Scorpion. If you execute on his chain pull and uppercut combo, you're going to move through the first few competitors pretty quickly. Finally, for those of you that want to compare the Super NES and the Genesis version, it goes like this. Super Nintendo. More voice, more carnage, baby death moves, digitized characters are a little cleaner, unlimited continues. Genesis. Code Axis Blood and Death boost. A little better control. Maximum of 6 continues, tougher opponents. Acclaim and Sculptured Software have done an excellent job bringing the monster arcade hit to the Super Nintendo. Get your friends together and fight. Mortal Monday is just around the corner, and Scorpion, Sub-Zero, Kano, Shang Tsung, and the rest of the gang are waiting. It looks pretty good though. I mean, the graphics, just at a glance and all, they're definitely good and much closer to the arcade as far as looks goes than the Super Nintendo or the Sega Genesis was. Top Gear looks like there was somewhat popular racing games on the Super Nintendo. Back to the Future. Game sounds like it was pretty horrible. Super Chase HQ. I would have liked to have played this game. I did enjoy the Chase HQ games from back in the day. And for previews, so it looks like they got talking about some Aero the Acrobat. Advertisement. At last, user-friendly football. And so yeah, so we got a sports section here. So Bill watched college football. So I think we rented one of these games. I think it was maybe this one. Yeah, Sega was killing it with like football games back then from EA. World Soccer, Football Fury. Yeah, like I said, it was just different back then. You know, there were just sports games from a lot of different developers. Some, not necessarily really great, but some of them weren't too bad though either. They're just more variety, Madden 94. Yeah, so it looks like this one was actually on this Super Nintendo one that actually ran pretty decent. Because from what I recall, the first few Madden games on the Super Nintendo didn't fare so well. They just played smoother on the Sega Genesis, but I think this is the one where they finally got it kind of right. From what I read and remember, anyways, back in the day. NBA Showdown, Legends of the Ring, Off-Road Baja, ESPN Baseball, and NHL Hockey 94. This was the big one, right? If I recall right. The one that ended up being really popular. I believe so. And yeah, they were pretty fun games, the NHL games. 2020 baseball. Here's a game that I really like. So F1 Grand Prix by Dolmark. Yeah, this game is just so fun. It's really fast and all, and yeah, it's a fun game. So the fastest racing game on the planet is about to appear on the Genesis, courtesy of the driving fanatics at Dolmark and Tengen. F1A Formula One World Championship is going to be the 16-bit driving game that all future F1 games will be judged by. No FX, no DSP, no CD required here. All that is required to make your eyes water is 8 megs of phenomenal programming by the folks at Dolmark. The speed in normal mode, there is also an ultra-fast turbo mode, is mind-blowing. And the game moves polygonal tunnels, texture map signs, and bitmap trees with such speed and ease that you will forget there was ever an FX chip. The game will features 12 detailed official Formula One tracks, including the beautiful renditions of the San Marino and San Brenton courses. 4 levels of difficulty and the best and fastest 2-player split screen driver yet on a home system. Dormark has taken the Genesis and given it a nitro boost. In fact, don't be surprised if your AC adapter heats up and the Genesis rips across the living room floor. F1 World Championship will be available in October, and we will have a full review in Gamefan Sports next month. Until then, I feel the need for speed. Yeah, just a fun racing game. I remember this game kind of came out of nowhere, and we rented it one time, and going off of this review here, and yeah, we just had a blast with it. I really enjoyed this game. One of my favorite racing games of this generation. F1 Grand Prix. But we got this game here on the Super Nintendo. Seems kind of like to use the graphic style of F-Zero. And we got a soccer game here. We're just starting to show FIFA Soccer. Yeah, FIFA Soccer on the Sega CD specifically. Oh man, we played that game to death. Me, my brother, my uncle, some friends also, my dad maybe even a little bit. Yeah, I remember we just had a blast with that game. Some of the best multiplayer gaming experiences I remember. Super or Techno Super Bowl. Okay, so now we're going to the PC Engine. So here they're talking about Air Zonk CD. It's Bonk's adventure, just kind of I guess like a spin-off to Bonk, more futuristic shooter version of it, which sounds weird, but I think it was an okay game. Mystic Formula. I remember. Well, I remember seeing the screenshots, but that's about it on that one. Also, kind of third-party controllers and Dracula X, Devil's Castle. Hold on to that duo. It's been 100 years, and Dracula is back to do battle with Belmonts once again. This time out, it's Simon's great grandson, Lithiar Belmont. Things have been quiet in Transylvania, almost too quiet. Very slowly, over many years, the power of darkness has been growing in the Devil's Castle, undetected until now. Dracula has been reborn after 100 years, and frightened would be lunch towns. What? Reborn after 100 years. 300 apiece, and since Sonic, Mario, and Wonder Dog are all on location, the meek and frightened would-be lunch townspeople bug the Belmonts once again. Okay, I read that completely wrong. Okay, I will kill the evil bloodsucker. What will ultimately set this version of everyone's favorite game apart from the rest will be the animation sequences, huge bosses, and phenomenal CD soundtrack. One thing I can tell you for sure is that this will definitely be the best action game ever made for this system, no doubt about it. Thing is, if you want to play it, and I know you will have reason to buy it as an import, as it will surely never see the light of day over here. For some reason, none of the Konami's PC Engine titles have made it stateside. A puzzling fact. Lucky for us, more and more retailers are now carrying import titles, so it shouldn't be too tough to get it. So wait till the sun comes up this October and raise your duo from the dead with Castlevania. Yeah, so ultimately we ended up knowing it here as Castlevania Rondo of Blood. And yeah, I mean, pretty cool game, especially for what it was setting up for the follow up to this game to be, which we'll look into that later in some later issues, I'm sure. Macros, Sega Genesis advertisements, Super Nintendo advertisements, Samurai Showdown. Yeah, I remember being impressed with the screenshots back then. I don't know if I saw this game in the arcades fairly early on, so a lot of times I just had to go off of like the screenshots here. And it's an excellent looking Neo Geo game. My favorite character, I would say, probably well, the main dude, the main samurai guy. I forgot his name, but cool character. Oh my god, excuse me. Oh, it's getting a little late. Wanted to get this done, but man, ugh, I usually just try to do this like late at night when everyone has gone to sleep and all. But I got the tomorrow off, but it was a bit of a long day today, so I'm just sort of like, oh, starting to wind down. But we're gonna crunch through this. Oh, they had a lot of screenshots here. I thought that the sprite here for this earthquake character, this beefy boy right here, kind of see him over here too. It was pretty impressive. Tam Tam also, he looked pretty cool. Advertisement for this movie again. So here again, we're talking about the 3DO. It's getting closer. 32-bit from what I can recall back then, because the systems were seeming like they were going to be really expensive, right? The F and Towns Marty seemed like it was only in Japan. The 3DO was really expensive. And so I think that during the stretch right here, always felt that it was probably going to be a while that we ever even got our hands on a 32-bit system. As at the time, the thought was just kind of like, well, these systems are just going to be really expensive, and only like rich people could afford them. So I guess we'll just stick it out with the Sega Genesis for a while. I remember that was roughly more or less my thoughts at the time. Because I mean, at the time I was looking at this, right, I was like, this just looks way too high tech. It's going to be super expensive, and it just felt like something that was way beyond our grasp. If in Towns Marty, so they got a port of Turbo Outrun. So not quite arcade perfect, what it sounds like. Yeah, the portable. They got their games. Mortal Kombat. They just don't play very well. It's like again, especially like these fighting games, because it was this, and there was even a Street Fighter 2 on the Master System that came out. That one was only in Brazil, if I recall right. But I mean, I guess it's kind of cool that they ported them there, but not they're a little rough. But here we have an RPG import special. So here they're talking about 3x3 eyes of a cartoon character from Japan. I believe this would have been on the Sega CD, right? I think so. Fantasy Star 4. Unwilling to compromise their brilliant plans for Fantasy Star 4, Sega Japan has beefed it up to 24 meg. Here's the latest. You can now combine techniques for special attacks. This won't be in the manual, but you can do it. They want you to experiment. There's also a new macro system which allows you to program all of your attacks at one time for all 5 characters, instead of one at a time like 2 and 3. Then sit back and watch the action. There are 3 to 7 techniques for each character, and remember the old houses? Well, now you can actually walk in and see everything. And their looks constantly change as each town has its own architecture. With 24 megs comes added detail, animation, background graphics, and length. 16 just wasn't enough. This is going to be one incredible RPG. Fantasy Star 4 will be loaded with sub-levels, but has only a single ending. The good news is that Sega of America is already translating Fantasy Star 4 for a US release. So hopefully we'll get to play it in English before the close of 1993. So far, Lunar, Hemdale, Landstalker, and now Fantasy Star 4 are all coming out to Sega to our Segas. Are RPGs finally getting the recognition they deserve? Only time will tell. Yeah, I mean, Sega had some decent RPGs and adventure games and all. Again, it's just because the Sega could do cool action games, fast-paced action games, didn't mean that the Nintendo didn't have any. And also because Nintendo was more known for their adventure RPG games and all, didn't mean that the Sega Genesis didn't have any. It just wasn't quite as popular, but there is some good stuff. So Fantasy Star 4 ended up being an excellent game. We'll talk about that more as they, end up reviewing it and all. But here's some kind of a robot game. And here's Landstalker. The text on this is kind of weird. I don't know if I'm going to try to read this. Let me see if I can read it. So let me start off by saying thank you to Climax for bringing out one of the most incredible games I have ever played. Landstalker is the most intense, hardcore action RPG I've ever dedicated time to. Not only does this game require hours upon hours of brain melt on the seemingly never-ending mazes and dungeons, but you must have some pretty quick hand-to-eye coordination also. The first jump sequence will take you at least an hour to get by. I got past that earlier or faster. Actually, which jump sequence are they talking about? Not sure. Everything about this game is fantastic. Your character is animated, and let's see, are animated, as are the gruesome monsters you will take. You will fight like skeletons, swordsmen, ogres, snakes, and poison mushrooms. The fighting is only half the battle, though. Not only will you have to save your money to buy better weapons, health, etc., but you must talk to everyone in town over and over and return to towns that you have already been to get hints and items to help you in your quest through the dungeons from hell. I can't believe some of these dungeons. These things combine impossible jumps, switch blocks, warps, moving platforms, and monsters with with the longest mazes I've ever seen. Well, my hand hurts and the pen is dry. Mere words cannot describe the joy of playing Landstalker. Enjoy. I know you will. At the time, I remember being stuck in some of these dungeons, and it just seems like they would go on forever and ever and ever. Um, yeah, great game. Great game. Adara 2. Some kind of an RPG in Japan. Oh, Konami. The Legend of Mana, which ended up becoming the Secret of Mana, right? Here's a game I haven't really gotten into on the Super Nintendo, but supposedly it's pretty good. I have ways to play it. I just need to maybe try to play it sometime. Breath of Fire. Haven't gotten into the Breath of Fire games either. Silver Saga 2. The Seventh Saga. Lufia. I heard Lufia's okay. Dragon Knight 2. Oh, seems a bit of a perverted game. And we got some ads. And for the graveyard, look what we got here. Super Castlevania 4. It may seem a little strange to some having Castlevania in the graveyard, being that it is a mainstream title that was hugely successful. Well, the graveyard is meant to do two things. Number one, show older games that were good but unpopular on or under advertised. And number two, let new system owners or new people just entering the realm of gaming know that they must buy to become a true member of our society. Okay, so we made that last one up so we could play Castlevania again. This game has truly stood the test of time so far. 8 out of 10 gamers surveyed that it was still their favorite action title for the Super Nintendo. The other two said Mario, so we locked them up with the Postmeister. You'll either beat them into submission or simply stare at them until they come around. Konami's Castlevania has it all: scaling, rotation, mode 7, tons of color on screen, superb graphics, replayability, length, and the best soundtrack ever for an action title. Since it came out, no other game has touched it. So you don't want to go and buy it. You don't have to. So you don't have it. Go and buy it. See you next month when we will dig. We will be digging up something truly old and decrepit in the graveyard. Yeah, Castlevania 4, awesome game. And yeah, the soundtrack is amazing on it too. What do you got here for quarter crunchers? Hmm. This Outrunners, I think they're talking about here. Here we have a look at Super Street Fighter 2. So this is the one that ended up introducing 4 new characters. So Cammy, DJ, T-Hawk, and Fei Long. And they became almost as iconic as the original cast. The updated character profiles were really well done too also. Yeah, great upgrade. I mean, yeah, they were really milking the Street Fighter for what all it was worth. Yeah, Street Fighter was a big deal back then. I mean, it's crazy how popular this game was. We got the Saturday Night Slam game and other stuff. All right, so kind of like before, I'm just going to kind of skim through it, but I'll leave it there for a bit if you just wanted to pause and watch. But let's see here. So in Sega news, there's been a lot of talk about Sega's upcoming 32-bit system. Here's a scoop. The project name is Saturn. Whether or not the system will be called the same is unknown. Probably not, which it was. The release, for Japan at least, is November 1994. Sega could let it rip earlier. It is rumored to be complete, but won't because of price. Sega isn't interested in marketing any system over 500, and you can't get the unit out. At that price just yet. The developers will need almost a year or so to make the new hardware, or for once, we'll have a good library of games for the system's launch. In the meantime, we'll have to be content with our Sega CDs, which is fine by me. Okay, then they just kind of talk about some Sega stuff, which is cool, but let's see. And in Nintendo news, and you thought the Sleeping Giant, and what about the Sleeping Giant Nintendo? I mean, the latest word on a CD drive is 1995, but with the upcoming upgrade we talked about last month, does it matter? Wait until you hear the music and singing in Clay Fighter. It had me looking for a CD drive. Meanwhile, FX Tracks is going to major surgery. It is up to 60 megs and has new graphics, but will most likely be an early 1994 release. In the meantime, though, there are a few new projects in the works. Konami is readying Lethal Enforcers and a new Twin Beat action game. So let's see. So yeah, so it looks like so seems like they were just kind of pushing away the CD technology, or at least not in a hurry to get on board with it. So this 3DO, they're talking about how it could be out soon. The Amiga CD, I remember that. Now they're talking about the Atari Jaguar. Interesting when you look back in retrospective, right? And all this flopped. This flopped. What is this? Probably didn't do very well. Yeah, but at the time, it just looked like cool new technology, right? Hmm. Some of these are kind of long. I was looking for like a quick one to read, but it looks like some of these are kind of long. So you can pause it there if you wanted to see any of them, or read any of them. Yeah, we are approaching the end of this one. And yeah, so we got Gauntlet 4 at the end here. So, another great magazine. Sega really seemed to dominate this one. I really felt that their output of games that they were having here was really impressive. So, good job to Sega on this. Again, this is during the stretch that I truly, really became a big Genesis fan with everything that we're seeing that came out here, right? this is where I was like, this is my system and all, where I started bringing so much nostalgia, so much of my gaming memories, and so much of the things that made me love games. And this is where it was all starting off. So always fun to revisit these magazines. But that's what I got on this one, and we'll see you on the next.